Birmingham, late 19th century, a city in the throes of the Industrial Revolution. Amidst the smoke and steam, a gang would rise to notoriety, etching their name into history, the Peaky Blinders. The streets of Birmingham were a harsh and unforgiving place. Poverty and crime were rampant, creating the perfect breeding ground for gangs. The city's rapid industrial growth attracted a large influx of workers, many of whom lived in squalid conditions. Overcrowded slums and a lack of law enforcement meant that the people had to fend for themselves. In the heart of this turmoil, a group of young men banded together for protection and profit. They were known for their distinctive style: tailored suits, silk scarves, and flat caps with razor blades sewn into the peaks. This unique fashion gave rise to their name, the Peaky Blinders. The razor blades in their caps were not just a fashion statement. They served as a weapon, allowing the gang members to blind their opponents in a fight. This brutal tactic ensured their reputation as a force to be reckoned with. The Peaky Blinders originated in the Small Heath area of Birmingham. Small Heath was a working-class neighborhood where life was tough and crime was a part of everyday existence. The gang started small, engaging in petty theft and street brawls. However, their ambitions quickly grew. As their influence expanded, the Peaky Blinders began to exert control over local businesses. They offered protection in exchange for money, and those who refused faced severe consequences. Their operations included robbery, smuggling, and illegal bookmaking. They were particularly involved in the gambling scene, taking bets on horse races and rigging the outcomes to their advantage. The Peaky Blinders were not just a gang, they were a well-organized criminal enterprise. Their operations were meticulously planned, and they had a clear hierarchy within the group. Leadership was key, and the most influential figure among them was Thomas Shelby. Thomas was a natural leader, charismatic, intelligent, and ruthless. Under his guidance, the gang's activities became more sophisticated and far-reaching. Thomas Shelby's vision for the Peaky Blinders extended beyond petty crime. He saw opportunities in the booming industrial city and aimed to establish a network that could rival any legitimate business. This ambition drove the Peaky Blinders to take greater risks, and their notoriety spread. Birmingham's landscape was changing rapidly. The Industrial Revolution brought technological advancements, but also social upheaval. Factories and workshops dominated the skyline, and the working class faced long hours, low wages, and hazardous conditions. It was a city of stark contrasts: wealth and poverty, progress and hardship. In this environment, the Peaky Blinders thrived. They were both a product of their time and a reaction to it. Their style and methods were designed to intimidate and impress. They were not just criminals. They were a subculture representing a new form of urban identity. Law enforcement struggled to keep up with the rise of organized crime. The police force was underfunded and often corrupt, turning a blind eye to the activities of the Peaky Blinders. This allowed the gang to operate with relative impunity, further solidifying their power. The origins of the Peaky Blinders lay in the volatile mix of poverty, industrial growth, and social change. From the backstreets of Birmingham, they forged a legacy that would endure for decades. Their story is one of ambition, violence, and the relentless pursuit of power in a city on the edge. This is the beginning of the legend of the Peaky Blinders, a gang that would become synonymous with Birmingham and a symbol of defiance and resilience. As the dawn of the 20th century approached, the Peaky Blinders were no longer just a gang. They were an institution. With sharp minds and even sharper blades, they crafted a web of influence that extended beyond their gritty origins in Small Heath. At the heart of their empire was the gambling industry. Betting on horse races was a lucrative business, and the Peaky Blinders were masters of the game. They didn't leave anything to chance. By fixing races, bribing jockeys, and intimidating bookmakers, they ensured the odds were always in their favor. Thomas Shelby, the mastermind behind the Peaky Blinders' rise, was a man of vision and ruthlessness. His strategic mind turned street smarts into a formidable criminal enterprise. Under his leadership, the gang's operations became more sophisticated and far-reaching. Shelby understood the importance of alliances and corruption. The Peaky Blinders secured their operations by infiltrating the police force and local government. Bribes and favors ensured that their activities went unchecked and that any opposition was swiftly dealt with. But their influence didn't stop at the local level. The Peaky Blinders established connections with powerful figures in London, weaving a network that extended their reach. They moved from being mere criminals to influential power brokers. Their involvement in horse racing was particularly notable. By controlling key races, they could manipulate the outcomes, ensuring significant returns on their bets. This not only filled their coffers, but also solidified their dominance in the gambling world. As their power grew, so did the challenges. Rival gangs sought to encroach on their territory, but the Peaky Blinders were relentless in defending their domain. Violence was both a tool and a message. They were not to be trifled with. Thomas Shelby's vision for the Peaky Blinders went beyond mere survival. He saw a future where they could wield true power, not just in the criminal underworld, but in society at large. This ambition drove their continued rise and ensured their place in history. The Peaky Blinders began to influence political events, using their wealth and connections to sway decisions in their favor. They became a shadowy force, shaping the future of Birmingham and beyond from the shadows. From the streets of Birmingham to the highest echelons of power, the Peaky Blinders carved out an empire built on cunning, brutality, and ambition. Their rise to power was as meteoric as it was inevitable, a testament to their ability to adapt and dominate. But every empire has its challenges, and the Peaky Blinders would soon face threats that tested their resilience and threatened to bring their reign to an end. By the early 20th century, the Peaky Blinders' influence had reached its zenith. But as with all things that rise too quickly, a fall was inevitable. Increased law enforcement efforts began to tighten the noose around the gang. The police, now better organized and more determined, launched a series of raids aimed at dismantling the Peaky Blinders' operations. Arrests were made, and many of the gang's leaders found themselves behind bars. The once untouchable Peaky Blinders were now vulnerable and exposed. The media played a significant role in the gang's downfall. Sensational headlines and detailed reports brought their crimes into the public eye, turning public opinion against them. Trials were held, and justice was swift. Key members received lengthy sentences, effectively crippling the gang's structure. But it wasn't just the police that contributed to their decline. Rival gangs saw an opportunity to seize power. The streets of Birmingham became a battleground, with the Peaky Blinders fighting to maintain their dominance. These violent clashes further weakened their hold on the city. The bloodshed and chaos took a toll on the Peaky Blinders. With their numbers dwindling and their leadership in disarray, the gang could no longer sustain its operations. By the 1920s, the original Peaky Blinders had all but disappeared. The city of Birmingham was changing, and so were the forces that controlled its underworld. Yet, the legacy of the Peaky Blinders was far from forgotten. In the years that followed, the legend of the Peaky Blinders grew. stories of their exploits became the stuff of folklore, passed down through generations. The gang's notoriety was immortalized in books, films, and television. The hit series Peaky Blinders brought their story to a global audience, blending historical facts with dramatic fiction. Today, the Peaky Blinders are an integral part of Birmingham's cultural heritage. Tourists flock to the city to walk in the footsteps of the infamous gang, and local businesses capitalize on their enduring appeal. The mythology of the Peaky Blinders continues to captivate the imagination, symbolizing a time when the lines between villain and hero were often blurred. From the dark alleys of their rise to the cultural phenomenon they have become, the Peaky Blinders remain a testament to the allure of rebellion and the quest for power. Their story is a reminder of how history and legend often intertwine, creating a legacy that endures long after the last cap has fallen.